poor countries in this world. Only the people are poor. When people didn't have enough to eat, when people were driven to the edge of desperation, there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the bauxite. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped. They're overexploited. They're overexploited. They're overexploited.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Lall Show right here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1, 99.5 FM. My name is Shikema and I will be your moderator this evening, and we have a very special program, a packed discussion for you guys this evening. Joining me in the studio is a senior journalist from Kaieteur News, Miss Kiana Wilburg, and of course you know the man of the hour himself, Mr. Lall. So before we dive into our program, a few housekeeping matters. We are live on Facebook, on Kaieteur Radio's Facebook page, so you can drop us a comment or whatever questions you have regarding tonight's program or regarding Guyana's resources. You can also send us a text message on 62222. Whatever questions or comments you have to make, we will gladly assist you with that. So with that short introduction, I will hand you over to Mr. Lall.
Thank you, Shikema. My last program, I said I'm getting and feeling much more comfortable sitting here talking on this radio to all Guyana. Today, as I sit here, I am much better addressing all of you. Tonight's program topic, I want to touch on gas to shore to Guyana. But before we get down into the topic, I just want to share a little story with you guys. Happened this morning. A caller said to me, after listening my Monday night's program, he was in tears and suggested that I play the song by Bob Marley, Get Up, Stand Up for Your Right. Hence, that song was played a minute or 2 minutes ago. I jokingly told the man, get a towel and wipe his eyes. As he was speaking to me, I myself felt a little emotional. So we smiled and I tell him to have a good night and listen to our program tonight. Tonight's program, I want to touch on gas to shore. This gas to shore project that our leaders are in a hurry to bring to us. Gas to shore projects all around this world is riddled with corruption and skullduggery. Oil companies and banks design these projects to make a killing from your wealth. Hear that? From your wealth. Our leaders in Guyana is in a mad rush to introduce a gas to shore project. Let me give you guys some details on what happened in Ghana. Before we get to Guyana, the previous government officials in Ghana told its people, we are committed to building a competitive and dynamic energy sector where private investments can thrive and the interest of the Ghanaian people and their business can also flourish. Ghana had worked to bring reliable power to its millions of citizens. However, it ended up hastily signing poor deals which led to the oversupply of electricity in that country. The deal forced the government to pay hundreds of millions every year for unused gas. Gas them couldn't use or sell. Them had to pay for it. Like you sign a contract with a farmer to bring 10 chicken a week for your house, when you can only eat 3 chicken per week. And you can't sell the 7 because nobody wants to buy. And basically there's no market for it. What you have to do, you will have to definitely throw those chickens away. You can't stop the farmer from bringing the 10 chicken every week, because you don't sign a contract in which you have to pay. Whether you throw it away or what you do with it, you have to pay. So who is making the money? And who is losing? Yes, and you losing. That's how simple it is. Ghana find themselves in that position where they have to pay for over 90% of the gas that they can't use or sell. Again, who making the money? The oil company, and the country losing. Ghana has become a victim to a pay or take clause in the gas contract, whether it has uses for it or not. Losing over 500 million yearly because of that agreement them signed on to. While the company, the mad rush, they push with the country to sign the contract. It was a very poor contract signed. There was no study done. That's what they put the state of affairs in. Guyana is heading in the same direction. Both the PPP and the coalition leaders are bent on carrying out this gas project here without any proper study or analysis done. Guess who were the players and crooks behind Ghana's situation? Yes, the politicians and the World Bank. The bank is the one who misled, endorsed, and financed that Ghana project. A UK-based non-governmental organization said in 2018, Ghana's offshore gas is rapidly becoming a debt burden amidst the country's debt crisis, and that this raises questions about the role of the World Bank in the country's gas development. The organization said the project is backed by a total of $1.2 billion from the World Bank as a loan. As early as 2015, Ghana's civil society organizations like the African Center for Energy Policy criticized the contract terms as unfavorable. They also said the World Bank that endorsed the gas project, crippling Ghana's energy sector. At present, they are losing one-third of their profits from their oil just because of that gas project. You hear that, Guyana? The World Bank, in them excuse, in them defense, said a project is a long-term one. Oh God, when I heard that flimsy, cockish excuse, it made me shake my head and smile. Let me explain a little how bank works. At all time they make sure they can recover their loans. If the ordinary man in Guyana go to the bank for a loan to build a house, the first thing them hold on to is your transport for the land. Then you have to show them a plan with an estimate as to how much this house will cost. The third thing them tell you, find 1/3 of the cost to start the foundation. And as you build, them start releasing the funds slowly, slowly. And guess what? They monitor the project too. Yes, that's how bank works. You also pay for the insurance that they pay to their insurance company so that they recover their money when you can't pay. It's all about safeguarding them money. Them have your transport plus the money you spend with theirs. If anything goes wrong, they are well covered. Them can never lose. That's how bank operate. But if it's a Lall, I can walk in a bank and ask for 10 million loan, and I will walk out with it the same day. I have the collateral and income to take care of that loan. Them know I am more than good for that small change. Matter of fact, them would ask if I want more, because them want to hook me into get more money out of me through interest rates. If I can't pay them, they will take away the newspaper and just walk away far richer. That's how they operate. But with a country that has tremendous wealth, all the banks in this world wants a piece of it. Them ready to give you any amount to carry out any project, whether it is good, bad, or ugly. Them know Guyana better than Lall. This is what the World Bank, IDB, IMF, and the rest of banks did to nations. Ghana and many more countries is paying through their nose on loans they took for projects that cannot get off the ground. That is where the PPP and the APNU government taking us. Guyana is next. We're heading like a bullet train into a gas to shore project with no guarantee that we will not end up like Ghana. Every single thing that happened in Ghana is already playing out right here with us. Yes, everything the government in Ghana say about this project, Guyana. Our leaders copy every word, not sentences, to justify our gas to shore project. And them already get the World Bank to stand by with whatever loans you want, just to trap us the way they did to Ghana. Both Patterson from the coalition government and Mr. Jagdeo from the PPP government say they are very happy to see this project come to light. Just like Ghana, them telling us. This project will bring down the price of electricity to meet the small man pocket. And them say go supply the growing development of Guyana's infrastructure. Them says so not Lall. These are the same words they use, the Ghanaian government officials use to the people in Ghana. As a matter of fact, Patterson was so proud of himself that he had to tell the nation that he was a minister at the time and how he was happy to champion the project. When asked by experts what study he did on this project to see whether it was feasible or not, whether it can make a profit, he is yet to answer that question. Imagine these people going to borrow hundreds of millions of US dollars to carry out a project and didn't do a proper economic or a feasibility study. Isn't this a joke, guys? It's like you going to build a house without a plan in hand. What you handing the contractor? A hammer or a spade? I sometimes wonder if them would go to pledge them house for a loan to do business without first checking to see if the business will work out or not. Patterson out of office now, and Jagdeo come in with the same crap. Different people, but same stroke. No study done, but I'm pushing ahead with this project that will only enrich Exxon with more cash in their bank accounts. So much have been said by experts, yet our leaders not paying heed to any. Let me ask you, are they working in the best interest of Guyana? I leave that question for you to answer. A US financial expert says just a few days ago, our gas to shore project is a recipe for bankruptcy. Other oil industry experts are of the firm conviction that such a venture could prove financially detrimental to Guyana, especially when one considers the nation's weak capacity to negotiate fair deals, fair oil deals in our country. Fair deals to bring about a gas to shore project. To bring gas to shore in a mere 4 years, one expert says, he can certainly appreciate the nation's desire to respond to the rising demand for electricity, as well as to find a solution to the issue of power outages and high electricity costs. He stressed the manner in which Guyana went about negotiating a lopsided oil deal. He is confident that Guyana can't do a proper contract for this gas project. The guy says them don't have the ability to negotiate the best price for a pipeline and other infrastructure to bring gas to shore. There is no evidence he have seen to that effect. The expert said, based on his observation of how Guyana leaders intend to pursue the gas to shore project, spells a recipe for financial bankruptcy. The man said, taking the little money we're getting from the oil and put it in this backward project would leave Guyana saddled with more debts, which, of course, will only fatten the oil companies and the banks and leave Guyana hanging from the edge of a cliff financially. Our leaders throwing around a figure on this gas, when I look at it, when experts look at it, you think Guyana has money like sand. 400 plus million US dollars to bring natural gas to Guyana's shore. Guyana, that is only putting the pipeline from the rig to our sandbanks, not for the construction of the onshore infrastructure and the refinery plants. That is a separate money in the hundreds of millions too. Then more money you have to find for distribute the electricity all over Guyana. I hope you guys get me clearly. More money just to distribute the electricity throughout Guyana. What they are talking about there, the electricity will only be in Essequibo, in the Demerara, and in Berbice. That's the kind of money you're spending on that project. And guess what Jagdeo said? ExxonMobil had been eager to move along with the project, but was waiting on the former government to steer the way forward. But them delayed. Jagdeo said that project may even take on the form of a public-private partnership. When I heard that, I laughed. That's another scampish and crookish project, just like the Marriott and the Berbice Bridge. I don't have to explain that Marriott and Berbice Bridge to you anymore. But those two projects is a public-private partnership project, and it designed only for the private individuals to make money, to make the money out of the projects. But Guyana putting in the bulk of the money. They would put into, like Guyana putting in 400 million on the pipeline, and a few of them friends gonna put in 2-3 million US. And the bulk of, if you get the little money, they all go into the private investors. That's what a PPP project means. It's a public-private partnership. And it, in the way Guyana designing the PPP projects, is only for benefit themselves. Over the past 2 decades, this newspaper, Kaieteur News, have shown how the independent, non-profit Institute of Americas warned Guyana to be careful in its negotiations to ensure it doesn't end up in Ghana's gas trap. The organization focused on Ghana's development partner, the World Bank, and the problematic role it played in that project. It so happened that the World Bank is now Guyana partner too, on the same gas to show project like Ghana. I was so happy, Guyana, when I heard what Raphael Trotman said about the World Bank. He finally came to grips 2 weeks ago and said at a press conference, it's not the first time the World Bank has been singled out for its potentially problematic role in a country's petroleum sector. That's what he said. Very recent developments have occurred much closer to home. He pointed to the World Bank role in some problematic hires made under his government, the coalition government, to which he was part of. And I was so happy when I heard him say, when he finally realized that the World Bank is a problematic bank. The coalition government, he said, had hired a UK-based consultant, Dr. Michael Warner, to produce a local content policy for Guyana oil. And I guess you guys would have remembered the name Michael Warner. They bring him to replace Anthony Paul, who had already given Guyana a draft policy, a Trinidadian. And they bring him, the World Bank recommend to the coalition for bring this Michael Warner to redo what the Trini did for us. And you don't want to hear back what he did. He changed everything that benefits Guyana to benefit the oil company. Mr. Trotman also talked about the UK-based Bayface to review ExxonMobil's Payara $9 billion field development plan. And the US, he also talked about a US law firm from Houston. He said they were also hired to review Guyana's petroleum legislation. He said all three of those people and company hired raised serious questions about conflict of interest, since they all worked with ExxonMobil, a superior major which has an effective monopoly on Guyana's oil sector. Trotman said these proposals were made by the World Bank and that the government relied, hear that, Guyana? And that the government of the day, them government, relied on the World Bank due diligence. My God, they just accept these people because World Bank settled them. Oil governance advocates, including international lawyer Melinda Janke, have written to the World Bank challenging them to prove that Guyana's gas project will not end up like Guyana's. The World Bank is now assisting Guyana with the development of its petroleum sector through a $20 million US loan. You hear that, Guyana? That's where we are. The World Bank, the IDB, the IMF, and all these banks are helping Guyana with loans. Loans to benefit who? Who you think is benefiting? Like I explained what banks did. They're there to make money. They don't care about the project you're going into. Once you have the resources, once you have the wealth, once you have the asset, any bank wants to throw money at you. Like I said, Guyana is now a wealthy nation. Finding oil, Guyana will be the leading nation in oil. Give it a year or two more. So every banks in the world would be lining up at your doorsteps. And our leaders cannot understand or see that. It is very sad. I have put together a clip for you to listen to a show, a program, Guyana's Oil and You, in which experts were engaged with the ex-minister David Patterson. I would like you guys to listen to it carefully. And I would have quoted a few lines in between in my presentation to you. But listen to these people, listen the words and how they present it. to you and how they reacted to our former minister. Could you play that clip for me, please? 2 lines in between in my presentation to you. But listen to these people, listen to the words and how they present it to you and how they reacted.
Venture, I mean, it is cheaper. It would be very much cheaper. Environmental, it is it's not renewable, but it's clean. It's considered clean energy. And secondly, that this gas to shore project would have been the very first big project from the oil and gas discovery, which would have direct impact, which would have had direct impact on the lives of all Guyanese. Therefore, as you're aware, Kiana, I spent a tremendously long time doing several studies, engaging several international institutions, the World Bank, IDB, the government of Japan. We independently commissioned several studies to ensure that that at least this very first project, if ever executed, would be successful.
Well, on the gas situation, it'd be just a couple of quick ones. I mean,
Sure.
I recognize the desire to use the resource described, but it's based on kind of a view of oil and gas markets that maybe existed 10 years ago. Right now, the world has an oversupply of gas, and there's no real need for it in the world market system, and that's largely because the price of renewable, well, largely because of oversupply, but also in many places that we're in 30 countries around the world, and we don't know of any place in the world where an aggressive renewable energy plan would be more expensive than even the gas infrastructure costs that Mr. Patterson was speaking to. And the other one, I have to be frank. I'll be frank about this. The way that the contracts were negotiated for this oil endeavor gives me no confidence that the country has an ability to negotiate a pipeline and power plants and other infrastructure on a price that would actually be affordable. I have no evidence of that. We have no evidence of that. We have evidence to the contrary. And I'm not sure, but I didn't hear whether or not there was a comparable analysis of whether or not there was a cost comparison between, where the renewable markets are and where the and how the arrangement would be in Guyana, the proposed arrangement. So I would say that you have a real a viable alternative that doesn't bring with you the whole host of issues that you've raised and which Guyana is unprepared to deal with.
I think the idea of using the gas to bring it to shore is completely economically and environmentally irresponsible. I've got two things to say. One is that this is going to result in massive debt. And secondly, that at the moment, this is illegal. So under Section 17 of the Environmental Protection Act, any policy decision that might have an impact, a significant impact on the environment, has to have an environmental impact assessment. That was not done. So before there is any move to do this gas, there needs to be an environmental impact assessment, and the decision to do the gas should be quashed. The Shore project is a lunatic project, really, for two reasons. One, the illegalities associated with this project, including the failure to carry out an environmental impact assessment, and the fact that we have an international obligation which says that we will go to 100% renewable energy by 2025, provided that we have the money. We cannot now turn around and spend that money on natural gas. Environmentally, this is a gas is a disaster. It is not cleaner energy. The comparison is between the current supply of energy, which is a heavy fuel oil, which is a terrible supply, and renewable energy. Where is the economic analysis that shows that natural gas is better for Guyana than renewable energy? The source of your gas, what is the cost? I've asked Minister Barrett, what gas are you using or proposing to use? he doesn't know. After 2 months, he comes back to me and says, your questions are technical in nature and we will endeavor to answer them at a later stage. How can you possibly decide to do a gas project and you don't know what gas you're going to use? So it seems to me that we're being driven to use the gas because it's being flared by ESSO, not because there is a reason, not because Guyana needs the gas, because we don't. We're going to go 100% renewable by 2025. We're not going to be using this gas. What we have is this idea to use it because ESSO is flaring, and the World Bank wants to dismantle Guyana's laws, which already make that flaring illegal, and allow ESSO to flare until 2030 under their so-called zero flaring initiative, which is not a zero flaring initiative, but a let's flare until 2030 initiative. The Guyanese people need to be very, very careful when they hear that the World Bank is involved in anything. The gas project in Ghana, the Sankofa project, has burdened the Ghanaian people with gas that they don't want and that they have to pay for every year. So in my view, the gas to shore project is a non-starter economically and environmentally.
Mm-hmm. Well, Guyana, there you have it. You heard it from the experts themselves. A few days ago, I was looking at the news, and Russia just ran through a pipeline through Turkey, throughout Europe, into Slovenia and elsewhere, in which Russia is now sending gas to all these nations. When you take that into consideration, maybe we can get gas from the Russian pipeline to Guyana cheaper than this project we are going to embark on. I believe so. I may not be correct, but what we need to see here, Guyana, is a plan, is a study, is an economic analysis. If we don't get that, then we are heading into a locked barrel. So there you go, Shikema. We can deal with some questions.
All right, before we dive into the questions, Mr. Lall will take a very short commercial break and we will be right back. Do stay tuned.
Lady Bob.
Get up, stand up for your right.
Guys enjoyed Mr. Lall's presentation, but at this point of the program, we will dive into the question and answer segment. So Mr. Lall, I have a question here for you. Do you feel that the PPPC government is capable of putting together a proper gas to shore deal for Guyana?
If the PPP can do that,
Yeah.
I think every proper leader can put together a proper deal. It is time they put together a proper deal. Of course they can. They have the ability to do it because they would have learned with all those oil contracts they signed, and they would have seen what happened to many other nations with gas to shore projects. All they have to do is to, like I said, get an analysis done, whether it's feasible or not. They can do it. They just need to ask for help. I'm pretty much certain there's so many experts who will gladly render assistance.
All right, moving on. Mr. Lall, someone would like to know if the court can be approached to stop the gas to shore project.
If
the court can be approached to stop the gas to shore project, taking into consideration that there was no environmental impact assessment or study done.
Well, yes, according to Miss Melinda Janke, she said it's an illegal project and from the start, and if we don't have the requisite not provision but things in place before we embarked on this trap project that can indebt us, somebody should move to the court to stop it, to block it. But I don't think we'll meet to that stage. I think if the leaders listen and they get the right people, we can put together one. We can put together one.
All right. So before we move on with the question and answer segment, just a reminder that you guys can send us a text on 62222, your questions, whatever comments you have. We are also live on Kaieteur Radio's Facebook page, where you can also shoot us your comments and your questions. So Mr. Lall, moving on, let's just move to the location of the proposed gas to shore project. We know that the Vice President had recently announced that the former Wales estate will be the location for the project, but there was no study done to say whether this would be a feasible area. So would you lobby for Mr. Jagdeo to release the study to support choosing Wales as the location?
Well, all the studies, if they did one, should be released to the public. We carried a story a few days ago in which the APNU government had earmarked one to land it in Berbice on the East Coast, and Kiana another one in
it's Sophia, New Amsterdam, and Georgetown.
And Georgetown, right? And now the PPP is saying Wales. What study they did, I don't know. But I laugh.
Sorry, correction. It would be Clonbrook,
Right. Sophia?
Georgetown, and New Amsterdam.
And New Amsterdam.
Yes.
Right.
That's what the three areas.
And when you read that story, there are so much things that I can laugh on, you know. One, Jagdeo said it will provide jobs. It's only jobs these people, like, I don't know if his tongue or his brain they're latched on to jobs or what. It's only jobs these people talking about. They don't concern whether you lose billions or if this thing doesn't make a profit. All they're concerned with is jobs and jobs. There's another piece that stick out in my memory right now, and I smiled. The coalition had earmarked 3 places, and the 3 places, according to the story, they would have grabbed up the land around the neighborhood to benefit if the gas project was to land there. And maybe that's why the PPP came and said, no, we're not going to go there. We're going to go rails and throw them off track. So it's like when you read these things, you can only conclude that every business deal they make, every project they embarked on, there must be something for them the politicians, the leaders. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's sickening. You know, you're going to do something. It's like they're putting the road from Diamond to Ogle, and all those lands they already grabbed up, and I don't know if they keep it for themselves or what they do with it. Nobody knows. The entire Guyana doesn't know what's going on there. From Diamond to Ogle, all the lands, I'm told, they just grab up and gone with. And this is how our leaders are behaving and operating in this country. They set projects to benefit themselves, their friends, their families, and their cronies.
So, Mr. Lall, if I can just make an input, because I've been making some jottings even from your presentation, and just for the interest of transparency, accountability, and I just want to ensure that we have certain things that are set on record
Clear.
correct.
Right.
You would have said earlier that Mr. Trotman, he would have made some statements with regard to the World Bank.
Yes.
So our colleague, senior journalist of Kaieteur News, Kimal King, he would have been the author of that article. I believe that Kimal consulted, or he spoke with Mr. Trotman on the matter. And Kimal would have said in the story that this is not the first time the World Bank would have been singled out. I highly doubt that Mr. Trotman would even think to make such a comment off of his own. So just to clarify that Mr. Trotman did not say that. It was the article that actually surmised, based on the fact of what's happening in Ghana. This is not something that it was isolated there. It's happened other places before.
Okay.
But moving on from that, the other matter that he spoke about.
Can I just say something? Despite what you said there, Trotman himself said the hiring the Michael Warner was a recommendation made by the World Bank.
Yes.
He said so.
He did say that.
Right.
But in addition to that, he didn't make any bones about whether it was a conflict of interest. He actually supported what the World Bank was saying. In other words, he was saying, okay, don't try to blame us for Mr. Warner coming to deal with the local content policy. We actually got the blessings from the World Bank. So everything is A-okay.
Yes, but
if we have the blessings of the World Bank. But it was Kaieteur News that actually pointed out that it's the conflict of interest, not Mr. Trotman. But what I wanted to just point out was in your example where you pointed to, if you have a lot of chickens, the gas, the amount of gas or the volume of gas that Ghana was made to take and pay for, whether they needed it or not. Just to add some context to the chicken example that you gave. And for those of you who missed it, Mr. Lall was saying it's like someone giving you a set of chickens and you agree to pay for it, but you only need 3. Let's say if they're giving you 7, but you only need 3. But here's what, in the case of Ghana, they were getting 10 chickens. They only need 3. So what they ended up doing, what they were forced to do, was actually create projects or situations that could have handled the extra, the excess that they had on their hand. So, for example, in using the same example, they were forced to either have an extra dinner party or a whole extra birthday party or try and cook it up and sell it somewhere else. They had to create projects in order to take off that excess, because if you're just getting it, you need something to at least try to make some money off of it. So in the context of Ghana, they weren't just allowing it to waste. They were forced to put themselves in further expenses to create projects to take off the excess. But coming back to this whole point of the gas to shore project, Mr. Lall, which I believe it's a very pertinent matter that you're speaking on and that you're highlighting to this nation, because if we are not careful, we can find ourselves, as we are being warned right now, in a state of financial bankruptcy. It's going to be the largest project we will ever take on. And if we're not careful with the financial model that we're taking on, if we don't ensure that we proceed with caution, we will head overboard, and we will not only be taking ourselves, we'll be taking future generations with us. And to come back to a part of the clip that was played by Mr. Lall, Mr. Patterson pointed out that indeed studies were done, but what kind of studies were done to support the natural gas project that both parties are very much keen on bringing to fruition? The kind of study that was done, and Kaieteur News has access to the gas to shore studies that they did. They were basically desktop studies. They were just studies that had this surface sort of view on the feasibility of landing the cable at the most feasible site. So they looked at the cheapest options, or what they believe to be the cheapest options, and they said, well, okay, I think it's cheaper to land it at Clonbrook, so that's what Guyana has to go with. But what we really, really need is a study that tells Guyana, hey, the financial model that we are using is the right one. This is how it's going to get us back our investment that we're making. This is how it's going to ensure future generations, your grandfather, your granddaughter and grandchildren and what's not, they're not going to be saddled with this debt for this project. This is the reason why we're going with gas to shore, because when we've compared it with renewables, which is the way of the world right now, which is where the world is heading right now because of climate change, this is why we believe it's much better, because we've looked at the cost of bringing solar and wind and hydro, and when we examine the economics of it, gas is much more feasible. There's no study that's been done like that, and it would be important for Guyana, for Guyanese actually, to demand from the PPP studies of this nature which show that this project is economically feasible from all fronts. Not just economically feasible to land it at a site or to land it at Wales, but that it's economically feasible from all fronts. I think I'll stop there for now.
All right. I heard you. I just want to make it very clear. Ghana, anyhow you twist it, anyhow you turn it, whatever extra projects they find to use the gas that was coming to them, they were losing $500 million a year. Yes, you get excess food, or you get excess chicken. You're going to eat, and you're going to eat, your belly might bust, and you might find some junkie and gam, or this neighbor want a little piece, or that neighbor want a little piece. Anyhow we twist it or return it, the country was losing because it was over excessive that they order, and they had to pay for it. I just wanted to clear that, please.
Just to be clear, and I don't mean to be back and forth on this matter, Mr. Lall, but it wasn't 500 million. It was 250, I believe, that our colleague put in the story.
No, let me correct that. It was 500 annually, and in September of last year, they renegotiated that gas deal, and it went down to 250 million. Just September last year, because the new government came in September and changed, and where they were able to get a renegotiation in which it went down to 250 million. And the 250 million they're losing is equivalent to 1/3 of the profit Ghana is making from their oil. Yeah.
We have another question here. Would you agree with Miss Melinda Janke's proposal that the gas should not come out from the ground?
Gas should not come out?
Yes. Let me repeat the question. Would you agree with Miss Melinda Janke's proposal that the gas should not come out of the ground?
Well, if we need gas to shore, and it can help ease our electric bill and able to modernize and our country, or fill the need that we will have down the road, and we can make money. Gas ashore must, I believe it should come. It doesn't make sense you flare it or you re-inject it. But I know she's speaking from an environmental aspect, in which you bring it to shore, you're polluting the atmosphere. You burn it, you pollute. She believes that it should be re-injected there. But it's neither here nor there. The project is about whether we make money or we don't make money on the project. And she has her own little side of oil and gas, being an environmentalist too. She wants a clean air. She wants a renewable. She wants a cleaner world to live in.
All right, let's move to a question from the Facebook Live. Someone would like to know what do you think solar energy would be a good fit for Guyana?
Solar?
Yes.
Well, the experts have said that we are yet to do a study as to where the world is heading in terms of energy, cheap energy, and oil. So that's a little over my head, I'll pass on that. But tonight's program is basically to deal with this gas to shore project and its cost, if it's feasible, if we can work with it or not. We can work with it, but we got to look at the model, the financing, the way they go about the project. That's what it really is.
Alrighty then, as we come down to the final 2 minutes of the Glenn Lall Show on Kaieteur Radio, I'd like to ask for final comments from both of you, Mr. Lall and Ms. Kiana Wilburg.
Well, our show closes at 8:20. What I'd like to say very briefly is that I believe this is a very important matter for us to discuss. The debate requires all Guyanese to be part of it, and I hope that it is clear to all and sundry that Kaieteur News is not against oil, it's not against investment, it's not against the development of the oil and gas sector. What it is against is the inequitable distribution of our wealth and the poor drafting of contracts that could land us in further debt traps. So we do hope that towards that end, we can have many more of you coming on board, joining the conversation, and tuning into these programs on a weekly basis.
Over to you, Mr.
Well
Lall.
said. Well
Yes.
said. For me, I just want to let Guyana know that these projects, all we should and must concern about is that we get better deals in which our pockets and our grocery bills can be taken care of. Our pensioners can get better pension. Our teachers, our nurses, our doctors, policemen, public servants, all must be able to get a salary that they can live with and live very comfortable. We are too much of a rich country, rich nation with so much oil, and it pains, it hurts us when we drive around or walk around and see people with begging bowls going about the place. So I just want to say, like the song, the Bob Marley the Bob Marley song, the guy recommend. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight. I love that song. Good night, and God bless.
All right, with that, we've come to the end of the Glenn Lall Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for contributing to tonight's program. You can join us again on Friday,
Perfect.
same time, same
there.
place,
You
for
put them
another
in your phone.
edition of the Glenn Lall Show.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Have a good evening.
The third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Only the people are poor. When people didn't have enough to eat, when people were driven to the edge of desperation, there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the bauxite. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped. They're overexploited. They're overexploited. They're overexploited.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up,